how did you begin your career as an actor? What got you into this?
Well, I started off with the first acting I ever did was I was in the 5th grade in a play in Baldwin Elementary called Pale Pink Dragon. And so I did that play, and then I knew the acting bug hit me. I knew there was nothing else I wanted to do. And my dad actually saw me then in that production. He was a writer, and he had kind of not discouraged me, but he never kind of let me know about his aspirations to be an actor. And later he told me that story about why he was discouraged himself from being an actor. But he was a writer for industrials, and he had written some of his own projects outside of that, and eventually published a book. And but he said, I'm not going to stand in your way. If that's what you want to do, I'll support you in any way you can. And so from that day forward, my mom and dad were incredibly supportive. And I know that for every actor, that isn't necessarily the case. And then from there, I did it in high school and college, and eventually I wound up studying at the Second City in Chicago.
Wow. What was your major in college?
My major in college was communications with a theater emphasis, because my dad insists that he goes, I'm going to support you in being an actor, but you got to have a plan B.
Right. So you went to college with that in place. You got out, and then what was your? I mean, had you been doing plays or productions while you were in college, or were you just kind of thinking like, once I get out, I'll do? Okay.
Yeah, every possible opportunity that I wanted to do, I would do every play in school. I did community theater, and after I graduated from Central Methodist in '91. I started doing improv with a troupe called The Network in my hometown of St. Louis, and they became the house troupe at Catch a Rising Star, which was one of the diamond level comedy clubs in America. And I would practice with them and do like underground shows while I was still in college. But the week I graduated, the headliner dropped out of the gig. And so they said, well, let's just have the improv troupe headline. And so I stepped right into a headlining gig at one of the top comedy clubs in America. That's not normal. People normally don't step into without any other, professional paid experience, headlining at a comedy club. I got lucky.
How did it go?
It went really well. One of the scariest nights was, have you ever heard of the Budweiser Ugliest Bartenders Contest?
No, I have not, but it sounds fascinating.
It is. It might just be a St. Louis thing, but it raises money for a bunch of different charities. And it's basically, the patrons of a local bar vote by donation or something like that for their favorite bartender. And usually it's not an ugly person. Usually it's like, the prettiest bartender there, or the, some old grumpy guy who's always worked there, whatever it is. And it's a joke that they're ugly. But a lot of those bar owners and a lot of the bartenders are bikers, at least in the St. Louis area. And so it was a bunch of rowdy bikers, and we won them over.
Wow. That's phenomenal. So what aspects of improv have translated to your career in acting?
Every possible thing. Every project that I've done, improv has been a large part of it. It's how I got the Dana Carvey show, of course, because, they hired me, Stephen Colbert, Steve Carell, and Heather Morgan from the Groundlings as the main group. And then Robert Smigel, who was the exec producer, had a big history in improv as well. He had done theater sports. And so that led to my first really big gig. They, to do sketch comedy, you have to have an improv background. But the movie The Ringer, when we started working with the script, all of a sudden we realized that there could be a lot more lines in the script for the characters with disabilities. And we didn't want it to be this thing like, it was patronizing to them to have us read all the lines and just have them read a line or two. And so I was one of the first to say, sure, give them some of my lines. I am not screen hungry. I'm happy enough to have this production. So I would just like sometimes improvise a line here or there, or I would just have a reaction. And the director, Barry Blaustein, who worked with the Farrelly brothers, the producers, he said, whenever I was in doubt, when we were editing and I needed to cut to something, it was always you, because you always had something fun and interesting going on in your face. And I was like, all right.
Oh, I love that. Helped with that. The moment you're acting, yeah.
Yeah, and then when we did Wizards of Waverly Place, we would get a script, and it would have Mr. Laritate in it, and there wouldn't be a lot of Western jokes. So I would improvise lines as we were producing, as we were rehearsing. You never want to do that for any aspiring actors. You never want to do that at a table read when the writer's work is being tried out for the very first time.
So most of the Western jokes are you?
What's that?
I said so most of the Western jokes you'll see on the show are that's all you?
Some of them. I wouldn't say all of them, because there was some of the best working comedy writers in America writing on that show.
Sure.
Sure. Like Peter Murrieta, one of the exec producers, is like one of the funniest guys I know, and love that guy.
So
Todd Greenwald as well.
How'd you get into Wizards, and what was that? Where were you at in what point in your career were you at where you were contacted?
I had done The Ringer, and I had a lot of success, and my wife at the time wanted to move back to St. Louis. She wanted to buy a house because it's almost impossible to buy a house in Los Angeles. It's very risky and very expensive. Sure. And so we bought a house right next door to her best friend, so we didn't even have to see it. We bought a sight unseen because we knew it was right next door to her best friend, and she could check it out, and she was a businesswoman and had a good idea for real estate. So we bought that house, and we moved all the way back there. And then I had a deal with my agent and my manager that I would definitely fly back in for auditions and put myself on tape, and then I would be out for pilot season. So the first winter I came out for pilot season, and didn't really book anything. There's a whole other story there about It's Always Sunny, and I could tell that later on if you want. Yeah, but we're asking about Wizards. So I flew out to Los Angeles for another audition. It was for the movie called All About Steve, which I did not book.
Oh,
and
wow.
So my manager said, or my agent said, hey, we got this project for you. It's this Disney project. They just did the pilot. It was called The Amazing O'Malleys. They now changed it to Wizards of Waverly Place. It's one of the first few episodes. It hasn't aired yet. Do you want to do it? And I said, come on. This is just a small role, because it was, that first episode with Mr. Laritate. You didn't know for sure whether it was you got a feeling, but they had done several episodes without him. So I didn't know if he was going to be somebody who was going to be on the show regularly.
Sure.
And it turned into a 5-year gig.
That's amazing.
So had I not flown out for that other audition, I probably would have never gotten the gig in the first place. So all my best success stories have come from failure.
I love that. What is one of your favorite memories from the set of Wizards?
There were so many great memories. One of my favorite memories was the Get Along Little Zombie, when I'm in cowboy gear for the square dance, and then I had the zombie makeup on top of it. And you might have seen, because you're a fellow TikToker, you might have seen some of my zombie Laritate Halloween videos.
Yes.
So I'm in full makeup on lunch break, and they would give us the best catered meals on that set. And you could either eat in the dining hall or eat outside, because they had some really nice tables outside. And I was like, I don't want to eat in a dining hall with all this makeup on. But I had totally forgotten that I was in full costume anyway. You kind of feel it on your face, but after a while you forget it. Right. So I'm there eating my steak. David DeLuise comes by and he goes, oh my God. And I'm like, what? I'm eating lunch. And he's like, I need to get a picture of this. And so he snapped a picture of me as a zombie eating lunch. And I can give you about 1 million different great stories from backstage, but that's one of my favorite ones. Me realizing, oh, I'm a zombie cowboy eating steak.
Wow. I love that.
It should have been brains.
That's awesome. So did you ever, were you ever on set when you weren't in the scenes, or like, do you ever watch episodes just to kind of get a feel for where the show is going so you could, were you only there?
I would from time to time watch episodes that I was not in, but at the time I didn't have time to watch a lot of TV. I was very busy back trying to juggle running an improv school back in St. Louis, try to keep my career out here. So there wasn't a lot of TV watching, but occasionally I would watch the episodes that I wasn't in. And I got a pretty good idea of what the rest of the show was, but I never got a chance to be on the set for some of the episodes that I wasn't in, because they always kept a real tight lock on who's around because of some of the huge celebrities that were on it.
Wow. So when you audition for a role like that, especially one like Mr. Laritate, what aspects do you bring to the table? And is it true that, when you're auditioning, you don't want to give them too much, but you want to give them enough where they can kind of mold you in the direction they want to go?
Yeah. Well, this particular audition was very different from the rest of them because I do get audition anxiety, like every actor. I get nervous. Sure. I worry about remembering the lines, which is the least worry. Yes, you do have to be off book. You have to know your lines, but they're not going to not hire you just because you said a line wrong here or there. Right. That is a reason for someone not to hire you if they're like, this person or that person. Mm-hmm. But I didn't care as much about that audition as the one that I was out there for. I was like, what is this brand new series that hasn't even aired yet? It may not. A lot of times you shoot shows that don't even hit the air. And so for me, I know it sounds silly, but the audition was almost an imposition on my schedule. So I was hardly off book. I tried to play it as real as possible. It's a little bit different from the me that I played on there, but they tell me that I was one of the quickest actors ever hired by Disney Channel based on my audition. So I did something right.
Wow, that's phenomenal. As an actor, how do you divide up how you spend a day in the office, like today?
You really should schedule it better. I don't, especially because we're in Corona time. So what happens 1 minute, like all of a sudden people expect you to be somewhere online and you can be. So it's a realistic expectation. And like I think I'm going to attribute it to TikTok. I've had an unusual uptick in auditions lately. There's a project, a whole season, a limited season coming up on a streaming service that I can't talk about that I'm auditioning for next week. 2 commercial auditions and 3 projects waiting in the wings for COVID restrictions to go down just a little bit to make it more feasible to shoot.
Sure. Wow. So how does TikTok play into that?
Well, for one thing, I share it on all my other platforms. So even if somebody isn't hip to TikTok, they'll wind up seeing what I consider my best material, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, where did he get the idea to do? Oh no." And I'm like, "No, I didn't. That's an example. I didn't do that one of those." But people think, "Oh wow, where did they get this amazingly creative ideas?" Like, well, I'm following a trend.
Right.
So yeah, what we do is we take a trend and then we put our own creative spin on it. But people outside of TikTok don't even understand that. And and also TikTok is an amazing way to connect with fans. I had no idea there were as many fans of Mr. Laritate in particular as there were. I knew there were fans of Wizards and of course of Selena, and I knew there were people watching the show, but I've been overwhelmed on TikTok with the love for Laritate.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. When you had started working with Selena, did you ever expect she'd be where she is today?
I kind of knew right off. When
really? Okay.
We would be backstage and she would sing before getting on set. Well, first of all, I knew that she had done Barney before Wizards, child actor already. But she would often just sing to herself to like calm her nerves. We all get nerves before shooting, and so she would sing to herself. And one time she was singing and I just turned to her, I said, you have a lovely voice. And she said, "Oh, thank you." And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, I was like, "You've probably already recorded, haven't you?" And she said, "Yeah, I have." And that was before she had released anything big.
Really?
And,
Okay.
And I knew right then, I saw her talent on set. And then when I found out she could sing like that, that's, basically everything you need. If you could sing and perform like that, and then you got age on your side, where eventually people will find you and find the right job for you. And she did very quickly.
Yeah, I love that. How do you go about evolving a character throughout time? Because when people see the beginning of Mr. Laritate and then they see him later on in later episodes, I'm sure the character's evolved. You have more of a sensibility for the character. How do you go about that from an actor standpoint?
I'm not one of those people that puts a lot of thought into process.
Okay.
I honestly, I try to bring as much me to the character as possible, because I found this out later on, not that long ago. I had spent all this time working towards, and I realized it's closer to my outlook anyway, but it was a quote from Sir Laurence Olivier, who said, "Your job is not to become the character. Your job is to allow the character to become you."
Wow, I love that.
Because you are what's unique. Millions of people could have played the same character, but it's what you bring to that role that makes it so unique. And so that had pretty much been my MO all along. I had tried to have a character be as close to me as possible. And of course, one thing I did with Laritate that I think I did more and more as the show went on was kind of make him a little bit retro. And, my glasses were already pretty retro, and my haircut and whatnot. But, he was based on the character Larry Tate on Bewitched, who was the boss who had no idea that these people around him were witches. And so I was like, he should have a retro vibe. So I did that a little bit in that first episode, and I think it came out a little bit more as the show went on.
Sure. Now the everyone knows that character for the bolo ties. Was that their idea, or did you walk in with a?
It was their idea.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was in the first script that I read about the bolo tie, and then I think I got the first revision. Yeah. And I think that came from Peter Murrieta once again, because he's from Arizona, and the bolo tie is the official neckwear of the state of Arizona.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, cool. I'm saying there's probably a 98% chance that he individually came up with that. Yeah.
Well, I love that, and I love how it became. I like just like what we said over time, a hook for the character.
Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal. What was it like on that set compared to other sets working as an actor? Is it typically you can expect the same thing, or is like every set is different? What is that?
Every set is different. For one thing, there was always a special day. On Fridays usually there would be like a coffee truck or like a fresh tortilla stand where they're making tortillas right in front of you. Candy truck, so they'd come up and you could pick your own little bag of candy. There's always something special about the set, and everybody made you feel at home, whether it was me or somebody else who was just doing a one-off thing. Everybody went out of their way to welcome you and make you feel like family. And of course, that's been the case on other sets. Like This Is Us was just like a mountain of love, but that doesn't always happen. And your job is to kind of stay out of the way when you work on a TV show. And that was never the case at Wizards. You always felt included and welcomed and part of the family.
Wow, I love that. So with you mentioned earlier table reads. How does that work? Is that initially when the show's being started, or is that for every episode?
For every episode.
Okay.
We would meet like we started off doing shows in the middle of the week. We would start the production schedule on a Wednesday, but then second season we started on Monday. So the week would go like this. Monday you do a table read, which was my overall favorite part of the whole process, because they'd give a big catered breakfast, and if I hadn't been on the show in a while, there'd be hugs and catching up with people, and I would always gossip with Maria. And
was that the first time that people would see like the new script for the episode, or are they seen it before? And
I think usually you would have been sent an email the night before.
Lost over it. Okay. Cool.
But sometimes it would have changed overnight in many different ways.
Right.
But yeah, that's the first time most people are hearing it. Those are the first laughs. And so you do the table read, and then the rest of the day you were pretty much off, because it was a Disney show and there were so many kids on set that they had to go to school. And so they have a teacher on set. People think that they have a fun life, but they gotta go to school while they're doing all that. And so they would work on their schoolwork, and so we'd be off the rest of the day. And then, or in many cases, come back and run a few scenes and get them up on their feet at least. And then the next day we'd run it in the morning, really get used to it. Later on in the day, run it once through with blocking. And on Wednesday, we would start really running it on its feet, be off book. Thursday, we would do the special effects and all the pre-shoots. And then Friday, we'd bring in the audience, which was always a madhouse.
So, you say bring in the audience. What is that? Was that for certain scenes, or was that for the full?
That would be for the full episode. As we got to our final season or so, some whole episodes were shot without an audience.
Wow.
I don't know why, and there were different production reasons for this and that. Or maybe there were so many special effects in some of the episodes that it was like, it's not going to be worth an audience's time to have them wait for us to set up a new thing and then do another.
Sure.
But Thursdays was always no audience, and then Fridays in front of a live audience.
Wow. What was one of your biggest thing that surprised you about the industry?
You mean overall?
Yeah.
I think something that recently surprised me was that it's more about the connections that you make. They always say it's about who you know, and I'm like, yeah, of course, once they see you have talent, whoever it is, but sometimes it's just because you're the only person in front of them. And I've had that happen where I just happen to be around and somebody's like, well, wait a minute, you could do this. And I'm like, yeah. So it's, in some cases it is about who you know, and that continually shocks me. And it's not a bad thing, because it should be about your ability to make connections with people. Because if you can't connect with them one-on-one, you're never going to be able to connect through a screen.
Sure. Did you ever worry about, talking about people that you know and possible that leading to different opportunities? Did you ever worry about typecasting, or were you always?
No, especially because one of my favorite acting teachers, Leslie Kahn, used to always say, sometimes people say, I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want to be pigeonholed. Her number one message was, get pigeonholed. She said, as soon as you're pigeonholed, people know exactly how to cast you.
Oh.
And if they need the grumpy principal type, they know exactly who to go to.
Right.
And then once you're better known, you can break out. Sean Penn, I'm sure he got a lot of job offers to be like a surfer dude after Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But he was able to turn them down and say, no, I think this is what I want to do. So everybody has a different vibe about them, and the camera captures that. And so as soon as you can do that, you'll work more. So actors should never worry about being pigeonholed, because, if you do have enough clout, you can get the sort of jobs you want. And if you don't, you have no reason to complain about how you're working. You should just worry about if you're working.
Well, earlier you mentioned This Is Us. Can you talk about how that came to be?
Yeah. Okay. So it's enough has passed. This Is Us is one of the biggies that they make you sign a whole sheet to not mention anything on social media or any of that. And so I was cool with that. But for a while after it, I was afraid, what can I talk about? It's been enough years that I can. So for the audition, so some people might be hearing this for the first time.
Oh, cool.
So the first audition, they gave me the sides, the lines to read. And the line was, William is upstairs resting. So I read the thing, and they said, William is upstairs resting. And then they were done, and they said, okay, now here's what you need to know. We couldn't put it out there on the sides for everyone to see, but William has passed away. So you're reacting to that, not the fact that he's upstairs resting. And I was like, oh, that changes things completely.
Yeah.
And I was so upset that now I was expected to completely reevaluate my audition. It's one thing to say, can you be madder on this line or whatever, but to now say, sure, now you have to sum it up this. And mind you, my father had passed away a year before that, and his name was William as well, just like me.
Yeah.
So I started welling up with tears, but not as in character, as a person. How dare you do this to me and expect me to act? And they were like, we love this. You got the job. And so I had to summon some of that up. And so part of that, finding those tears, was thinking about my father, who had recently passed away. And then when he mentions his daughter, I was thinking of my daughter, Isabella, who spent several days in the NICU because she was, it was a little bit of struggle as she was just born. So I had to put all those emotions and bottle them up the day of.
Wow. That's crazy. How many episodes were you on of that?
Just one.
Just the one? Okay.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing that I was just, it's a short scene. It's not a long scene, but some people know me just as the mailman because they're huge fans of This Is Us. And there was a huge letter writing campaign. People wanted to see the more of the mailman, but it's been so long that I doubt that'll ever happen. I would love to be back on it again, but it's highly unlikely at this point that it'd be like, whoa, you remember the mailman?
Maybe. That'd be awesome. You have a cameo back in the show. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. I have a photo here. I'm just kind of going through some of the photos that we share. When was this taken? This is a fun
That
photo.
was in Puerto Rico on the set of the Wizards movie. And I was down there, as I was mentioning earlier, for the Rum Diary with Johnny Depp. And so I was walking through the lobby of the Caribe Hilton, and I ran into everybody there. I knew they were shooting there at the time, because when I first got the news about Rum Diary, my manager said, "Guess who's going to Puerto Rico?" And I was like, "Hey, they wound up with a role for me in the Wizards movie." And she goes, "No, the Johnny Depp movie you auditioned for." And so I went there, and I knew they were there, but I didn't know where they were, and I didn't want to be so presumptuous as to hunt them down and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" But so Peter Murrieta said, "Oh man, you're here. Let's go grab dinner." So we all had a big dinner, and then he decided to have me shoot a scene that never made its way onto the show, or onto the movie rather. It's very possible that it's on the DVDs, but I've never looked at the DVD of it. I watched it when it came out on Disney. But so basically, I walked by in the background when the parents are originally meeting, and I walked by and I'm like, "Oh," and then walked past. So that never happened. But so we were hanging out while we were shooting that, and we took that picture. There's also a picture somewhere online. I think you can find it. Maybe on my blog of David DeLuise and Selena holding my nephew's flat Stanley, because he did a flat Stanley. I'm not sure if you're aware of that school project where they'll take a little flat guy and they'll mail him around the world, or So my nephew mailed me a flat Stanley, and I said, "I'm going to Puerto Rico, and I'm going to be with Selena later on." I was with Selena Gomez. So what an exciting flat Stanley you had.
That's awesome. I love that. What is one of your favorite memories from your career that looking back, you're like, wow, I can't believe I got to do that?
Wow. There have been a lot. I think for me, the first one, and the one that sticks in my mind the most, is just working on the Dana Carvey show. Because when he was on Saturday Night Live, he was, for me, the same way, somebody now might look at, Tina Fey, or, somebody who's been on the show recently.
Sure.
And so I literally had his church lady character, a poster of that character on my wall in college. It wasn't a beer poster or a girl in a bathing suit. It was Dana Carvey. It was on my freshman dorm wall. So to be able to be working with him and doing comedy, and then finally sitting across from the table with him doing one of the sketches, that was probably for me the first mind-blowing moment that I'm doing something a little bit different with my life here.
I love that. Well, is there a lot of typical careers you have a certain path that you have to do this to get where you're wanting to go? In this career, is it like that, or is it you're just kind of like trying all these different things and you see kind of what hits? What is your experience?
Yeah, it's pretty much what you do. You do what it takes, and then something sticks, and then what's working for you this week or month or year might not work next time. So what you can do is always stay on top of your chops. Always take a class. I teach classes at my school, the Improv Trick. I'm even doing a webinar, and for everybody on TikTok, it'll be free. Normally it's $75, but if they use the code TikTok, they'll get it free. So, yeah.
What's that on?
So
is that on a website, or?
It'll be on the improvtrick.com. So if people are interested in that, they can go to the improvtrick.com and just sign up on the contact page, because it hasn't been listed yet. We're trying to keep it as a premium thing, and we also don't want people rushing in there and saying they're on TikTok, even though they're not. Although now I've already told everybody. So, but if you're a fan of Landon, you're okay with me, and you can use the TikTok code. But
we have a hookup. It's fantastic.
Yes.
I love that. Well, what is one of the most, in what I do, I'm a ventriloquist, so sometimes things go wrong on stage. Has anything ever gone wrong on set, or something happened where it just is so funny, but it's like a fluke on stage or on set?
Yeah.
I should say.
One of my earliest ones was I was doing Little Shop of Horrors. I played Mr. Mushnick right out of high school. I was in a local theater, community theater production. And there's the point at which he opens up the trash can and pulls out the dentist's smock, all covered in blood. And it was our final dress rehearsal, and there were a bunch of invited guests, so there was an audience for it and everything. And I opened the can, and nobody set the prop. This is the whole thing. It's the turning point where he gets called out for the murder. And I just went, "It used to be there," and then put it down. And People believed it. And even
Yeah.
earlier than that, in My Fair Lady, we were doing when they just come back from the ball and they're celebrating, and there was an antique couch, and I don't think they were expecting someone my size to sit on it, because me and the lead, Danny Ritchie, my good friend, we both plopped down on the couch at the same time, and one of the legs went crack, and we just dealt with it like it was the most hilarious thing to happen to two people who were having a ball coming back from a ball. And then, of course, things happen all the time on set, but you get to reset, you get to reshoot it. You're lucky enough.
Sure. So do you prefer stage, or do you prefer filming on like a TV set?
I miss the stage, especially these last 6 months. But even after that, that's why I enjoyed working on Wizards, because it's just like doing a live stage production. When you've got a live audience in front of you and you're able to interact with them, so fun. Yeah. So I do miss that. And that's why I do improv and sketch comedy, because I love the live audience interaction. It's fun doing film, but it takes a lot out of you, because you got to find that same level of intensity over and over and over again, and then from another angle over and over and over again.
Sure.
And then it gets pretty repetitive.
So stage versus film, in terms of, how big you have to play it, and, if there's an audience or if not, like, are those the main differences? Are there other things that you have to kind of know going in? Oh, I have to play the character like this because...
Those are the big ones. And then cheating out, you always want,
Sure.
you don't want to like turn yourself like that. You want to kind of cheat out like that and turn to somebody like that. There's a bunch of different, minuscule differences between television and films, learning your sight lines, where are you looking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Phenomenal. What advice do you have to those wanting to get into acting in this industry?
Start creating things,
Okay.
Those who are on TikTok, there's so many people there who have already started to amass enough things to put together a full professional reel. So start creating things, start learning, get in as many classes as you can. Because if you've got a resume with no work on it, but a lot of training, that'll mean a lot to some casting directors who believe in training and believe in experience. And then collaborate with other people, because everybody rises together. Everything that I've done has usually been because I was working with somebody else on something and we achieved it together. And then you celebrate together, because it can get lonely at the top. But if you're bringing up other people with you, you're going to be doing all right.
I love that. So you think that a portfolio of TikToks can be something that you can submit as as an actual portfolio?
I would not be surprised.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why is that? Just because of how big TikTok has grown to be, and the different trends and how it's grown? Okay.
It's a phenomenon. Imagine when radio first came out. People didn't know what it was. It's a strange thing. You had to buy a radio to get it, and then all of a sudden these shows, all of us we're reaching everywhere, all over the country, and then later all over the world. And that's what TikTok is doing. You can literally be all over the world. One of my videos I dropped the other day, and then I went live. And when you go live, the TikTok really pushes out your videos a little bit extra.
Yeah.
I came back from a very brief live and had 10,000 people who had viewed it already. Yesterday I dropped one like that. All of a sudden I got a comment like just like three minutes, not even 3 minutes, probably 1 minute after I dropped it. Somebody said, "How did you get so many views already?" And I looked at it, and I wasn't even live at the time. I had just dropped it, and then I looked at it, I was like, I already had 1,000 in 3 minutes. 1,000 people had seen me. And exponentially, the more followers you have on TikTok, the quicker it's going to get out to those people. And when they see it quicker, other people are going to see it quicker. So I'm scared to see what's going to happen. I have a pretty small account in terms of followers right now. So I'm scared to see what's going to happen once I hit past the 50,000 mark.
Sure. Well, where you are in your career right now, do you ever worry about like where you want to be, or what's like next for you? Or is it kind of like what you said to those that are starting, where you're just like keep creating content, keep creating, and keep doing stuff that will allow you to be seen?
Yeah, it's important to set goals.
Okay.
But you can't let yourself get discouraged because your goals haven't been reached yet, because sometimes something that you've already put out there comes back to you and brings more with it. So, I have goals. I would love to be a lead character in a series that was fortunate enough to be as well received critically and by fans as Wizards.
Mhm.
I was a supporting character, a guest star, but I would like to be in a lead for about that long, for 4 or 5 years. That would be nice, and to
Yeah,
have regular work coming in.
for
And
sure.
it would be nice to be a lead in a feature film again. I would like to do at least one of those every year.
Wow. What do you think the difference has been in how it used to be getting into the industry versus what it is today?
I think it's easier because used to be there were different unions. There was the TV and film union, AFTRA, and then SAG was the film union, and there were extra hurdles you have to get into SAG. But now you can create a video under a union contract, and you're on your way to a SAG membership. And once you're in a SAG membership, you can get representation with a SAG franchised agent
Mhm.
and get into film. So it's a little bit easier to do that. It's easier to build a following because you could build a following without being on TV and film. And there are some
Mhm.
casting sites that they ask you to link your socials to it so they can decide whether they're going to hire you. So maybe just your social media audience could, in some cases, prove that you're experienced enough and well liked enough to
Mhm.
skyrocket you to fame.
Wow, that's such an interesting perspective. That's phenomenal. Wow.
Yeah, it's changed a lot in the past 25
Yeah, for sure. Well,
minutes.
Bill Cott, thank you so much for being part of Land and Live and for sharing your story and tips to those that want to be part of this. This is
My
phenomenal.
pleasure. It's fun following you on TikTok because I've always loved ventriloquism. I grew up as a kid doing magic, so I think the first
Oh,
thing
okay.
I didn't know you were a ventriloquist when you first welcomed me. You said it's nice to see you on this platform, and I was like, that's nice. And then you first got on my radar when you did a duet of Bill the
Uh-huh.
zombie.
Yeah,
Was it with my zombie character? Oh no, it was with my Halloween thing with my daughter in her bee costume.
yeah,
And that was like, so I wouldn't have known you if it weren't for the fact that you were creating on TikTok, right? We wouldn't have
right.
met if it wasn't for that. The world has changed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've gotten to interview some really amazing and talented artists just because of the outreach TikTok has given us. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal. And where can people find you to find more about what you do and the services you provide?
They can find me on theimprovtrick.com, and
Okay.
that's my improv website, or they can just look at Bill Cott, Chott, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And I also have a fan site for those who are fans, which is mailman.blog. And I guess you can guess which role I created that after that little blow up happened.
Sure, for sure. Fantastic. Well, Bill Cott, thank you so much for being part of Land and Live. And we look forward to seeing more of your TikTok content coming soon.
Back at you.
All right, take care, guys, and we'll talk to you all real soon.